You feels uncomfortable if the biggest reason most people never become powerful is not a lack of talent, intelligence, or opportunity. What if the real reason is something far more invisible? Their addiction to support. Most people believe success requires encouragement. They believe someone must believe in them first. A mentor, a family member, a friend, an audience. But history tells a far darker truth. Some of the most influential individuals in history began their journey in silence, completely alone. No encouragement. No applause. Sometimes not even belief from the people closest to them. And that silence is where the real transformation begins. Imagine this scene. Late at night, the world is asleep. Lights are off in every house on the street, but in one small room, a single light is still on. Someone sits at a desk, working, thinking, planning. Outside that room, people doubt them. Friends think they are wasting time. Family thinks they are chasing unrealistic dreams. Strangers would probably laugh if they knew what this person was trying to build. But the person in that room keeps working anyway. No support. No recognition. Just a quiet determination that refuses to disappear. At this moment, this silent moment, is something almost every powerful individual has experienced. Because success rarely begins with encouragement. It begins with resistance. When you decide to pursue something different, something ambitious, something uncertain, you unintentionally challenge the comfort of everyone around you. People like predictable paths, stable jobs, normal lifestyles, safe decisions. But ambition is unpredictable. Ambition introduces risk, and risk makes people uncomfortable. So when you begin stepping outside the ordinary path, something strange happens. The same people who once supported you begin questioning you, not because they hate you, not because they want you to fail, but because your ambition forces them to confront something difficult. If you succeed, it proves that more was possible all along. And that realization is uncomfortable. So they doubt, they criticize, they advise caution, they suggest safer options. And slowly, a psychological pressure forms around you. It whispers a dangerous message. Maybe you should stop. Most people listen to that voice. They return to the safe path. They choose approval over independence. And the dream quietly disappears. But a few people respond differently. Instead of interpreting silence as rejection, they interpret it as freedom. They begin understanding something powerful that thinkers like Machiavelli recognized centuries ago. Support can be comforting, but it can also be limiting. When you rely on approval, you begin shaping your decisions around what others expect. You become predictable. Controllable. Safe. But when support disappears, something extraordinary happens. You begin developing a mind that operates independently. You stop asking for permission. You stop needing applause. You stop fearing judgment. And slowly, something dangerous begins to form. Inner authority, the ability to move forward without emotional validation, the ability to think strategically instead of emotionally, the ability to continue building even when nobody notices. This is the hidden advantage of succeeding without support. It forces you to develop the psychological strength that most people never build, because the truth is simple and brutal. The world does not reward ambition immediately. First, it tests it. Through doubt, through isolation. Through silence. And those who survive that stage become something very different from the crowd. They become independent. They become strategic. They become difficult to influence. So if you feel like nobody supports your vision, if people around you question your direction, if your ambition feels lonely right now, you might be standing at the exact starting point where many powerful individuals once stood, alone, uncertain, but quietly preparing for something greater. Because sometimes the absence of support is not a sign that you are failing. Sometimes it is the first sign that you are becoming unstoppable. Every serious ambition begins with a moment that most people never talk about. A quiet realization. The realization that nobody is coming to support you. At first, the feeling is subtle. You share your idea with someone close to you, expecting curiosity, maybe even excitement. But instead, you notice hesitation, a pause, a doubtful expression. Then the questions begin. Are you sure that's a good idea? Isn't that too risky? Why not choose something more stable? These words may sound harmless, even caring, but over time they form a powerful psychological force. Doubt, and doubt has a strange effect on the human mind. It slowly drains confidence, especially when it comes from people we respect. This is why the early stage of ambition is often the loneliest stage, because the moment you choose a path that is different from the crowd, you unintentionally break an invisible rule of society. Predictability. Human communities function best when people behave in familiar ways. Predictable routines make life feel safe. When everyone follows the same path, the world feels stable. But independence disrupts that stability when someone decides to pursue something uncertain. Building a business, mastering a rare skill, creating something new, they introduce unpredictability into their environment. And unpredictability makes people uncomfortable. This discomfort often shows itself as discouragement. Not always intentionally, most of the time, the people around you genuinely believe they are helping. They want to protect you from disappointment. They want to guide you toward safer choices. But safety and ambition rarely walk the same path. And this is where the silent test begins. At this stage, you will not face dramatic enemies or open opposition. Instead, you face something far more dangerous: subtle pressure, conversations that make you question your direction, advice that slowly pushes you toward ordinary decisions, concern that quietly replaces encouragement. For many people, this pressure becomes overwhelming. The mind begins searching desperately for approval again. It asks a simple question: what if they are right? And with that question, many dreams disappear before they ever have a chance to grow. But a small number of individuals experience this stage differently. Instead of retreating, they begin observing. They notice something interesting. Every person who attempts something unusual faces the same reaction. Skepticism. Warnings. This pattern repeats across industries, cultures, and generations. And suddenly, the resistance stops feeling personal. It starts looking predictable. From a strategic perspective, the kind thinkers like Machiavelli understood well. This stage is not meant to stop you. It is meant to test you. It reveals something important about your psychology. Do you need approval to continue? Or can you move forward through conviction alone? Those who pass this test develop a rare form of independence. They stop waiting for reassurance. They stop explaining their vision to everyone around them. They simply continue moving forward. Quietly. Patiently. And once a person reaches that point, something changes forever. Because the moment you stop needing permission from the world, you begin gaining control over your own direction. And that is the first real step toward power. There is a reason the absence of support feels so painful. It is not simply emotional weakness. It is biology. For most of human history, survival depended on belonging to a group. Thousands of years ago, being accepted by the tribe meant protection, food, and safety. But being rejected meant isolation, and isolation often meant death. Because of this, the human brain evolved with a powerful instinct: the need for approval. Your mind constantly scans the environment for signs of acceptance. A compliment, a smile, a supportive comment. These small signals trigger a sense of safety. But criticism, doubt, or silence trigger the opposite feeling. Danger. Even today, in the modern world where survival no longer depends on tribal acceptance, the brain still reacts the same way. This is why pursuing an unconventional goal feels so psychologically difficult. The moment people around you stop validating your choices, the mind begins sending warning signals. It whispers uncomfortable thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they see something I don't. Maybe I should stop. This inner dialogue is powerful enough to destroy ambition before it ever has time to grow. Look around, and you will notice how deeply this need for validation shapes human behavior. People choose careers that impress their families instead of following their real interests. They stay silent about their ideas to avoid judgment. They abandon risky dreams because they fear being seen as unrealistic. Approval becomes the invisible currency that guides their decisions. But the moment someone begins operating without needing that approval, something extraordinary happens. They become independent thinkers. And independence is dangerous to the structure of ordinary society because a person who no longer depends on validation cannot be easily influenced. They are not guided by applause. They are not controlled by criticism. They move according to their own strategic thinking. This is one of the reasons thinkers like Machiavelli emphasized emotional detachment in the pursuit of power. If your decisions depend on how people react to you, then your direction will constantly change. Praise will push you forward. Criticism will push you backward, and your life will become a reflection. You want someone to say you are on the right path, but slowly, something shifts. Instead of searching for validation, you begin searching for progress. Instead of worrying about opinions, you begin analyzing results. And with time, a new psychological foundation forms. You stop asking the world if you are allowed to continue. You simply continue. And once that shift happens, something interesting occurs. The same silence that once felt like rejection becomes your greatest advantage, because while others depend on applause to move forward, you have learned how to move without it. At first, isolation feels like loss when support disappears, when encouragement fades, when nobody seems to understand your direction. The silence can feel heavy. It can feel like something important is missing. But there is another side to isolation that most people never discover, a hidden strength. Because when you remove constant opinions, expectations, and noise from the environment around you, something unusual begins to happen inside your mind. It becomes sharper. Think about how most people live their lives. Their decisions are constantly shaped by the voices around them, advice from friends, expectations from family, pressure from society, the endless influence of other people's beliefs. Slowly, these voices become so loud that it becomes difficult to hear one voice in particular. Your own. Isolation changes that. When you spend enough time working alone, thinking alone, moving quietly, without constant feedback, your mind begins operating differently. You start observing more, analyzing more, reflecting more deeply on the decisions you make. And that process builds a powerful mental advantage. Strategic thinking. Throughout history, many influential thinkers and leaders experienced long periods of solitude before their ideas shaped the world. Isolation forced them to confront their own thoughts without distraction. It forced them to refine their thinking, challenge their assumptions, and strengthen their convictions. Solitude creates clarity. In a noisy environment, the mind reacts quickly. It follows trends, emotions, and immediate opinions. But in silence, the mind slows down. It studies patterns. It notices behavior. It begins to understand people and situations at a deeper level. This is one reason why individuals who succeed without support often develop strong psychological awareness. Because when you are not surrounded by constant encouragement, you naturally begin observing the world more carefully. You pay attention to motivations. You study reactions. You learn how people think, and over time, this awareness becomes one of the most powerful forms of intelligence. But there is another transformation happening during isolation as well: emotional independence. When someone spends too much time surrounded by approval, they unconsciously become dependent on it. Their confidence rises when people praise them and collapses when people criticize them. Isolation breaks that dependency. At first, it is uncomfortable. The silence forces you to confront doubt, uncertainty, and fear without external reassurance. But if you continue moving forward through that stage, the mind adapts. Confidence slowly stops depending on other people's reactions. Instead, it begins to grow from something more stable. Your actions, your discipline, your ability to continue when motivation disappears. And that type of confidence is far stronger than the kind built through applause, because applause can disappear overnight, but self-trust, once built, becomes permanent. This is why solitude has played such an important role in the development of powerful minds. Throughout history, it removes distractions. It strengthens discipline. And most importantly, it forces individuals to become comfortable standing alone. And once a person learns how to stand alone, they stop fearing the absence of support. They start using it as an advantage. If you want, I can continue with the next chapter. There is a stage in every ambitious journey that almost nobody sees, a stage where effort is constant, but recognition is non-existent. No one congratulates you. No one notices your improvement. No one celebrates the small victories that slowly build momentum. For most people, this stage is unbearable because human motivation is deeply connected to feedback. When we receive praise, encouragement, or attention, the brain releases small rewards of satisfaction. Those rewards make effort feel meaningful. But when effort receives no reaction at all, the mind begins asking uncomfortable questions. Is this worth it? Does this even matter? Maybe nobody cares because it isn't good enough. And slowly, motivation fades. This is why so many projects begin with excitement, but end in silence. At the beginning, there is energy. There is inspiration. There are conversations about future success. But when the applause never arrives, persistence disappears. Yet there is another type of individual who reacts very differently to this stage. Instead of waiting for recognition, they learn to operate without it. They stop measuring progress through attention. They measure it through improvement. Every day becomes a quiet investment in skill, knowledge, and preparation. While others chase visibility, They focus on capability. And this difference creates a powerful psychological advantage because attention can be misleading. When people are constantly praised or observed, they often begin performing for the audience rather than improving their abilities. Their focus shifts from growth to appearance, but when nobody is watching, the opposite happens. There's freedom to experiment, freedom to fail, freedom to make mistakes without embarrassment. This environment quietly accelerates development. Many of the most capable individuals spend years refining their craft in complete obscurity. Before the world ever notices their existence, from the outside, it may look like sudden success, but in reality, it is the result of thousands of silent hours that nobody witnessed. Hours of study, hours of practice, hours of disciplined work that happen without applause. This is what makes silent progress so powerful. It removes the pressure of performance and replaces it with the focus of mastery. And mastery grows fastest in privacy because when recognition is absent, the only motivation left is internal, the desire to become better, the commitment to a long-term vision, the quiet understanding that real influence takes time to build. Think about it this way. If someone can only move forward when others are encouraging them, their progress will always depend on external energy. But if someone learns how to move forward without applause, their progress becomes unstoppable. They no longer depend on motivation from the outside world. They generate it themselves, and that is when ambition becomes extremely difficult to stop. Because once a person becomes comfortable working in silence, they develop a powerful advantage over the crowd. They stop needing attention. They start building strength. And by the time the world finally notices them, they are already far ahead. Once a person learns to operate without support, something interesting begins to happen. Their perspective changes. Instead of constantly reacting to people's opinions, they begin observing them, and observation is where real strategic intelligence begins. This is one of the core ideas behind the thinking associated with Machiavelli. In environments where influence and power matter, emotional reactions are often weaknesses. Those who react quickly to praise or criticism become predictable. Predictable people are easy to control, but individuals who step back and observe before reacting become much harder to influence. When you succeed without support, you naturally begin developing this habit of observation. Because you are not surrounded by constant encouragement, you start paying attention to the behavior of others. You begin noticing patterns. Who supports you only when things look successful? Who doubts you when the path becomes uncertain? Who encourages safety instead of growth? And over time, these observations teach you something important about human nature. People rarely respond to ambition based on logic alone. They respond based on emotion. Fear. Comfort. Security. Many people discourage risk not because they understand your situation, but because they imagine themselves facing the same uncertainty, and that perspective shapes their advice. Understanding this gives you a powerful advantage. Instead of reacting emotionally to criticism or doubt, you begin interpreting it strategically. You recognize that opinions often reveal more about the person speaking than about the situation itself. A cautious person will always recommend caution. A fearful person will always highlight risks, and someone comfortable with routine will naturally resist change. Once you understand this pattern, something liberating happens. You stop taking every opinion personally. You begin filtering information more intelligently. You listen carefully, but you decide independently. This is a major shift in mindset because many people allow the loudest voices around them to shape their direction. Their decisions change depending on who approves and who disapproves. But those who think strategically do something different. They treat opinions as data, information to analyze, not commands to obey. This ability becomes especially valuable in competitive environments where influence matters. When you can separate emotion from decision-making, you begin moving with clarity while others are distracted by reactions. You become calmer, more patient. More calculated. And this calmness often appears mysterious to others because while they are reacting to events immediately, you are watching carefully before choosing your move. This is one of the hidden advantages of developing independence early. It trains your mind to think strategically rather than emotionally. Instead of being pushed forward by praise or pulled backward by criticism, you maintain a steady direction guided by your own understanding. And when someone reaches this level of mental discipline, their behavior becomes difficult for others to predict. Which, in many situations, is one of the most powerful advantages a person can have. At some point in the journey of building something alone, doubt becomes unavoidable. Not just your own doubt, But the doubt of others. People begin questioning your direction. Some will express it openly. Others will show it through subtle comments, quiet skepticism, or amused disbelief, and at first, those reactions can feel discouraging because criticism has a unique psychological effect. It forces you to look at your own uncertainty. It magnifies the possibility of failure. For many people, this is the moment when ambition collapses. They begin interpreting doubt as a warning sign, a signal that they should stop before things go wrong. But individuals who eventually succeed without support learn to see doubt differently. They begin recognizing it as a natural reaction to anything unfamiliar or ambitious. Think about it. Whenever someone attempts something outside the ordinary, people instinctively measure it against their own experience. If they have never done it themselves, they assume it must be unrealistic. If they cannot imagine the outcome, they assume it must fail. This is not necessarily malicious behavior. It is simply the human tendency to judge the unknown through the lens of the familiar. But once you understand that tendency, something interesting happens. Doubt stops feeling personal. Instead, it becomes predictable. And once something becomes predictable, it loses much of its emotional power. Instead of feeling discouraged by skepticism, you start using it differently. As fuel. Every doubtful comment becomes a reminder of how unusual your path is. Every skeptical reaction confirms that you are stepping outside the limits most people accept for themselves. And that realization can be surprisingly motivating, because ambition rarely grows in environments where everyone agrees with you. In fact, constant agreement can sometimes be a warning sign that your vision is too safe. The ideas that change industries, influence culture, or create lasting success often appear unrealistic. In the beginning, they challenge existing assumptions. They make people uncomfortable, and because of that, they attract skepticism. But those who learn to transform doubt into motivation gain a powerful psychological advantage. Instead of avoiding criticism, they become resilient to it. Each obstacle strengthens their determination. Each moment of disbelief becomes another reason to keep improving. Over time, something remarkable begins to happen. The same doubt that once felt discouraging becomes proof of progress. It shows that you are moving into territory where few people have gone before. And when ambition reaches that stage, the journey becomes less about proving others wrong and more about proving to yourself that persistence can outlast uncertainty. Because success without support is rarely built through comfort. It is built through the ability to continue moving forward even when doubt surrounds you. And once a person learns how to do that, doubt stops being an obstacle. It becomes energy. One of the most difficult challenges of working without support is learning to wait, not for a day or a week, but for months, even years. Because when you are building something alone, progress is rarely visible. There are no milestones to celebrate, no public recognition, no applause, just quiet effort, day after day. For many, this invisible phase is a breaking point. Excitement at the beginning slowly fades. Sacrifices start to feel heavy, and the mind begins asking uncomfortable questions. Why is this taking so long? Am I on the wrong path? Maybe no one will ever notice. Modern culture makes this struggle worse. Instant feedback, immediate gratification, and constant comparison have trained people to expect rapid results. But meaningful success rarely happens quickly. True influence and mastery follow a slow, deliberate rhythm. That rhythm rewards those who can endure the unseen. This is where strategic patience comes in. Unlike passive waiting, strategic patience is active preparation, while others chase attention. Those who succeed quietly focus on building foundations that will pay off later. They refine their skills. They study patterns. They learn to anticipate obstacles and position themselves for opportunities long before anyone notices. From the outside, it may look like nothing is happening. The world sees a person quietly working, seemingly stagnant, but internally, growth is exponential. Each day of disciplined effort compounds, knowledge deepens, skills sharpen, mental resilience strengthens, and when opportunity finally arrives, the individual is ready to act with precision. Consider the innovators, creators, and thinkers throughout history. Their breakthroughs often appear sudden to the public. Overnight success, they call it. But those overnight moments were preceded by years of quiet, invisible work. Time spent learning, experimenting, failing, and refining. All without applause, all without validation. Patience is not passive. It is the strategic weapon of those who understand that long-term results outweigh temporary comfort. Those who endure this invisible phase develop an unshakable foundation. They measure progress differently not by external attention, but by skill, capability, and personal growth. This internal focus allows them to stay the course when the world seems indifferent. When patience is combined with independence, a dangerous formula emerges. Progress becomes unstoppable, while others chase instant results. The patient strategist quietly strengthens their advantage, and when the moment is right, success accelerates. Not because luck intervened, but because preparation met opportunity. True power grows in silence, and through time, those who master patience learn to embrace the invisible work. Knowing it shapes them into someone the world will eventually notice, but only after they are fully ready. As someone continues moving forward without support, a quiet transformation begins. The constant need for external validation, praise, approval, reassurance slowly loses its grip. In its place grows something far more powerful: internal authority. Internal authority is not arrogance. It is a calm, unshakable confidence, rooted in experience, persistence, and self-trust. It is the ability to make decisions based on personal conviction and careful observation, rather than the fluctuating opinions of others. Every small victory, every challenge navigated in silence, builds this foundation. Each choice made independently strengthens the mind and sharpens judgment. At first, this shift feels strange. The brain is wired to crave approval. Without it, doubts resurface. Am I doing the right thing? Will anyone ever notice? But over time, those who persist learn to answer these questions internally. They develop a personal compass. They rely on their own analysis, discipline, and judgment rather than the crowd. Progress is measured not by applause, but by growth, skill, and clarity of action. This transformation changes behavior subtly but profoundly. Decisions are made with calm decisiveness. Actions no longer require justification. Social pressure loses its influence. The individual becomes emotionally resilient, able to stay the course regardless of external opinion. Focus shifts entirely toward what matters: mastery, strategy, and long-term positioning. History is full of examples. Great inventors, strategists, artists, and entrepreneurs often spent years refining their craft unnoticed. They were working, learning, and improving in silence, cultivating internal authority long before the world recognized them. Their confidence did not depend on recognition. It was earned through repeated, disciplined action. Internal authority also carries a hidden form of influence. People are naturally drawn to those who act from conviction rather than reaction. Calm, consistent individuals inspire trust without demanding it, unlike those who rely on applause or external support. These individuals exert quiet power simply by moving with intention. Others sense their confidence and are compelled to follow or respect it. This mental shift is crucial for anyone attempting to succeed alone. External encouragement is fleeting. It can vanish or be misdirected. Internal authority, however, cannot be removed. It grows stronger with each challenge faced, each obstacle overcome, and each silent victory earned. It turns isolation into an asset rather than a weakness. By the time recognition arrives, the individual is already fortified. They no longer depend on external validation. Their momentum is self-generated. Each action is deliberate, each step measured. Success is no longer about proving anyone right or wrong. It is about the mastery of oneself. Ultimately, building internal authority is about becoming unstoppable. It transforms doubt into clarity, solitude into strength, and independence into quiet power. For anyone navigating life without support, it is the essential foundation for long-term influence, resilience, and achievement. After years of silent work, unseen effort, and quiet persistence, something begins to shift. The world, which once ignored, doubted, or dismissed you, starts to notice. Recognition does not arrive gradually. It often appears suddenly, like a wave that rises faster than anyone expected. This is the turning point. The same people who once questioned your choices, laughed at your ambition, or advised caution now begin to pay attention. They notice progress, achievements, and the undeniable results of your persistence. And with this recognition comes an almost paradoxical psychological phenomenon: admiration that arrives too late to shape your path, yet powerful enough to confirm your journey. The irony is profound. For years, you moved forward without support, relying entirely on your own discipline. Each step was measured against personal growth, not applause. Every challenge faced alone strengthened internal authority, strategic thinking, and resilience. By the time the world acknowledges your work, you are already prepared, refined, and far ahead of those who doubted you. This moment is also revealing. It exposes human nature in stark contrast. The same environment that once rejected your vision now celebrates it. Friends, family, colleagues, even competitors may suddenly shift their opinions. What was once perceived as overambitious, unrealistic, or impossible becomes respectable, impressive, and even inspiring. The crowd's approval finally aligns with your achievements, but it no longer defines them. Psychologically, this turning point is transformative. It confirms that perseverance, strategic patience, and internal authority are far more valuable than early support. You learn that recognition is temporary and unreliable, but preparation and discipline are permanent. The world can validate you, or it can remain silent. The real power is in your ability to continue regardless. Examples of this pattern are everywhere. Innovators, creators, and leaders often experience sudden acknowledgement after years of obscurity. The artist whose work was ignored finally receives acclaim. The entrepreneur whose ideas were doubted secures major success. The strategist who acted quietly behind the scenes gains influence. Once outcomes are undeniable, their achievements appear sudden to observers, but they are the result of countless invisible hours of preparation, resilience, and silent work. This moment also changes how you see others' doubt. Criticism and skepticism, once discouraging, now become markers of progress. They were proof that you were stepping outside comfort zones, challenging norms, and moving beyond ordinary expectations. Doubt becomes a signpost of significance rather than a threat dot. By the time recognition arrives, you are no longer dependent on it. You have already built the skills, discipline, and internal authority necessary to sustain continued success. The world may celebrate your achievement, but your strength was never contingent on its approval. This chapter in the journey emphasizes a critical lesson. External acknowledgement is fleeting, but the preparation, perseverance, and mental discipline developed in solitude endure. The moment the world changes is not the moment of power, it is the confirmation of power that was already forged in silence. As the journey comes full circle, the lessons of working without support become clear. The struggle, the isolation, the doubt, all of it was not punishment. It was preparation. Every moment of silence, every skeptical comment, every unseen effort was shaping something far more powerful than external recognition, your mind. The world rarely rewards ambition in its early stages. Society prefers predictability. Friends and family often encourage conformity. Straying from the familiar triggers doubt, fear, and criticism. Those who succeed despite this environment are not stronger because the world favored them. They are stronger because they learn to stand alone, think strategically, and trust themselves. This reflection is not just about resilience. It is about transformation. The individual who walks this path develops independence, emotional control, and strategic patience. They stop seeking validation and begin building internal authority. They learn to interpret doubt as fuel, silence as opportunity, and delay as preparation. Over time, these traits compound, forming a psychological armor that makes them unstoppable. Power, in this sense, is quiet. It does not demand attention or applause. It is the ability to act with clarity while others are distracted by emotion, opinion, or instant gratification. It is moving forward without permission, without recognition, and without fear. This is the essence of succeeding with zero support. Philosophically, this journey challenges conventional assumptions. Success is not about who applauds you, who notices you, or who joins you along the way. Success is about who you become when no one is watching. The person you develop in solitude is far more important than the accolades you eventually receive emotionally. This reflection invites a shift in perspective. If you are facing doubt or working in silence, it does not mean failure. It means you are on a path that few understand. The absence of support is not weakness, it is a crucible that forges strength, strategic intelligence, and inner authority. What feels like loneliness is often the environment where power and influence are cultivated. The final lesson is clear. Trust yourself when no one else does. Continue forward even when recognition is absent. Let doubt drive you, let silence sharpen you, and let patience prepare you. External approval may come, or it may never arrive, but the growth you achieve in the process is permanent. As the documentary closes, reflect on this truth. Those who succeed alone have learned a secret most never understand. Real power is cultivated quietly, invisibly, and patiently. It grows in isolation, thrives in discipline, and manifests when the world finally catches If this resonates, consider it an invitation. Continue exploring the psychology of influence, strategy, and silent power. Watch closely, think deeply, and learn what others cannot see. The journey of mastering yourself is the only journey that matters.